Have you ever been there? I mean, really been in a situation that's so painful, so confusing, you just can't make sense of it. Life has a way of throwing these moments at us, right? Where everything feels completely chaotic. And we're left just wondering, what is the plan? Is there even a plan at all? Well, today we're going to dive deep into what it actually means to find faith and to trust, right in the middle of all that confusion.
I want you to just let that sink in for a second. This is such a powerful idea to start with. What it's really saying is that whatever you've been through, whatever you're going through right now, that is not the end of the story. The pain, the confusion, they're not meant to be some tragedy that defines you. Instead, we can reframe them, see them as a testimony, a powerful story of how you made it through, what you learned, and how you found solid ground when everything else felt like it was crumbling.
So here's our game plan. We're going to start with the root of the problem, which is really a question of trust. Then we'll look at our go-to human reaction, that battle for control. After that, we'll talk about redefining what surrender really means, look at how to trust God's character instead of our circumstances, and finally, explore what it looks like to live by promises, not by explanations. All right, let's get right to the heart of the struggle, because when life takes one of those crazy, unexpected turns, it immediately forces a fundamental question of trust to the surface. And that question is rooted in the deep, deep pain of not knowing what's going on.
This is the question, isn't it? I mean, this is the one we whisper in the middle of the night, or maybe shout when we're all alone. God, why? Why me? Why this? Why now? It comes from this place of real hurt and just this desperate need for answers. A need for all the chaos to have some kind of reason, any reason, behind it.
You know, this really gets to a core truth about us as people. It's often not the suffering itself that breaks us, it's the not knowing why. We have this deep-seated feeling that if we could just understand the why, we could handle almost any what. But that desperate search for a reason, that can become the source of our biggest anxiety, especially when the answers just don't come. So what happens then? What do we do when we're faced with that painful silence, with no clear answers in sight? Well, our instinct kicks in, and that instinct almost every single time is to grab the steering wheel with both hands and try to manage our way out of the uncertainty. This principle right here is absolutely essential. You see it in our relationships with other people, and you especially see it in our spiritual lives. If we don't, at our core, trust that God has our best interests at heart, our default response is to take everything into our own hands. We try to control every little variable, manage every possible outcome, because we're afraid to let go. So you can see there are two very different paths here. On one hand, the path of not trusting leads straight to a need for control. We overanalyze every single move, we live only by what we can see and prove, and we try to force life to fit into our tiny little box of understanding. But when we choose the other path, the path of trust, a whole new set of possibilities opens up. We can surrender the outcome. We can focus on simply being obedient. And we can start to live by faith, not just by what our eyes can see. Okay, I think every single one of us can relate to this. We've all been there, right? Trying to force an outcome, trying to manipulate a situation, or just worrying a problem into the ground when it was completely, totally out of our hands. What did that feel like for you? Was it stressful? Exhausting? I would genuinely love to hear about it. Take a second and share your experience in the comments below. It's so powerful when we realize we're not alone in this struggle. So if trying to control everything just leads to more stress and anxiety, what's the alternative? Well, the answer might sound a little counterintuitive. It's surrender. But it is absolutely crucial that we understand this is not about being weak or just giving up. No, this is the turning point. Let's completely redefine this word right now. Surrender, in this context, is not waving a white flag in defeat. Not at all. It is an active, conscious, and incredibly powerful decision. It's a choice you make to stop carrying the crushing weight of the outcome on your own shoulders and to intentionally place your trust in God, who can actually handle it. It is an act of profound strength, not weakness. I love how this simple sentence just breaks it all down. It creates this powerful division of labor. Think about it. Our responsibility is to be obedient, to do the next right thing that's in front of us. That's our part. The outcome, the results, how it all turns out in the end, well, that belongs to God. This doesn't mean we're not responsible for our actions, but it does mean we can release our death grip on the final result. And let me tell you, that is liberating.
Okay, so that all sounds great in theory, but how do we actually do this? How do we get to a place where we can truly surrender the outcome? Well, the key is shifting our focus. Instead of trying to make sense of our constantly changing, often confusing circumstances, we have to anchor ourselves to something that never, ever changes: God's character.
This verse from Isaiah really gets to the core of it. Our perspective is so limited. It's like we're looking at one tiny pixel on a giant screen. We see the immediate pain, the immediate confusion, but a divine perspective sees the entire picture. God's ways are so far beyond ours that we can't possibly expect to understand every single move he makes. So the point isn't to understand the plan, it's to trust the planner. So if we can't trust our own understanding of our circumstances, what can we trust? We can trust who God is. We trust his character. He is fundamentally good. He is righteous. He is true. He is faithful. He is just. These are the constants. When everything else in your life feels like it's spinning out of control, these truths are the solid rock you can stand on. This powerful question was asked by Abraham when he was wrestling with God's plan. And what's amazing about it is that the question contains its own answer. Of course, the judge of all the earth will do what is right. It's this profound declaration of faith in God's fundamental nature. It's saying, even when I can't see how, even when this looks completely wrong from where I'm standing, I can trust that his ultimate actions will always align with his just and righteous character.
All right, so let's see how all of this builds toward a completely new way of living. Because if we start trusting God's character instead of our circumstances, it changes everything about how we navigate the mysteries of life, day in and day out.
This really shows the fundamental shift in perspective we're talking about. We stop demanding explanations for everything, and we start living by promises. We stop trying to trace God's hand in every single little event, and instead, we learn to just trust his heart. And maybe most importantly, we stop needing to see the entire path laid out in front of us, because we learn to trust the companion who is walking that path with us. You know, the poet Robert Frost really nailed a deep truth here. Sometimes, for a trial to have its intended purpose, for it to forge something new and strong inside of us, we can't understand it while it's happening. The very confusion, that feeling of it being unmeaning, is an essential part of the process that ultimately creates real meaning, real resilience, and a much deeper faith. And this, right here, brings it all home. Look, it's easy to have faith when things are going great, right? When we're on the mountaintops of life. But real, durable, unshakable trust, that isn't built up there. It is forged in the valleys, in the trials, the struggles, and the seasons of unanswered questions. Those difficult times are not some detour from our journey of faith. They are the very path where our faith is made strong. So ultimately, it all comes down to a choice. Life is going to present us with those big, unanswered why questions. We can torment ourselves trying to find all the answers, or we can make a different choice. When life doesn't make sense, can you choose to believe that God is good and trust him anyway? That is the choice of faith. And in making that choice, that's where we find the deepest reason to be thankful. Not always for the circumstances, for sure, but for the unwavering character of the one who walks with us through them. If you were inspired with this video, please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Be Thankful. Feel free to share this video as well. Thank you, and God bless.